Crane knew that Batman was standing right behind him in the shadows, but he was smarter than that and didn't turn to face him. Oh wait, sorry. So, Batman, what will you do? Stop me and risk polluting the water, or grab the bag and try to capture me at the same time? Scarecrow said, smiling under his mask as Batman stood with a neutral face. Time slowed to a crawl as Batman plotted carefully, but knew the possible outcome as he threw a batarang, severing the thread connecting the bag of fear toxin to Scarecrow's scythe. He had almost got the bag when Scarecrow sliced the bag open, spilling the toxin into the filter. Batman dodged a couple of sharp swings by Scarecrow. Batman caught Scarecrow's scythe, jabbing it into his chest, knocking the wind out of him slightly, but just enough for Batman to capitalize with a knee to the face, and ran to the filter controls and closed off the floodgates. When Batman accomplished his task and returned to where Scarecrow had laid, he was gone. Chapter 11. Cut back to present day. As Batman stood in the Batcave, staring at the infrared pictures on his computer screen, he pondered the images carefully as he typed in a series of keys that opened a pair of dossiers on two supercriminals that he had a gut feeling were behind these events: Ra's al Ghul and Sin Tzu. Just then, a Batwave alarm went off at the Gotham Knights football stadium. Batman's eyes narrowed, sensing this was a possible trap, but couldn't be ignored nevertheless, as he jumped into the Batmobile. When he arrived at the stadium, Batman crept through the hallways, scanning for any sign of an ambush. Something wasn't right. The air felt heavy, and though he couldn't smell anything, Batman felt lightheaded, even dizzy, as he started hallucinating, seeing scary and frightening images play out before his eyes, and he knew he was infected by Scarecrow's fear toxin. The hallways of the stadium became warped, twisting and turning into a dark labyrinth. Batman knew it would only get worse the more he was exposed. Shadowy cockroaches crawled across the floors, and crimson-eyed bats and crows flew at Batman. He ran past them, down the twisted hallway to a door that brought Batman to a hedge maze, lined with black roses and mutant maggots with dragon-like wings, feasting on bodies. When Batman got closer, he saw with horror and mental agony that the bodies the maggots were feasting on were the bodies of his parents, Alfred, Nightwing, Commissioner Gordon, and many others that he couldn't make out, all in a row. Batman realized this was a maze, all right, but a maze of torment and agony. Batman was overwhelmed by the agonizing screams and jeers of those he cared about or tried to save but failed. The voice of Jason Todd boomed out, "You failed to save me, Bruce. You didn't avenge me." His father, "It's your fault your mother and I died." Gordon, "You're a monster, Batman. You're no better than Zsasz or Joker or any of the other inmates in Arkham." Batman could feel his sanity slowly slip as the disembodied voices continued. "No, no, no!" Batman says. He slammed his fist on the ground. He could feel the ground through his gloves. It was soft, and he swore it felt plastery. In his haze, he realized he was on the field of the stadium. He had to be. Chapter 12. An almost demonic-type laugh came from in front of Batman. He stared up and saw a cloaked figure in the darkness floating towards him. "So, Batman, is your mind broken yet? It's quite futile to resist. You'll succumb to the madness eventually." Scarecrow cackled. The toxin had warped Scarecrow's appearance. His eyes and inside of his mouth had an amber glow like the inside of a jack-o'-lantern. The noose took on an appearance of a demonic cobra, and small red-eyed rats crawled through and in the straw of Scarecrow's outfit. "Never, Crane!" Batman said as he grabbed Scarecrow by the face and with one arm lifted Scarecrow up and slammed the back of his head into the ground. Scarecrow swung his scythe at Batman, who caught it in mid-swing and jabbed Scarecrow in the gut with extreme force. "You want madness? You want oblivion?" Batman lifted "You want madness? You want oblivion? You want fear, Crane?" Batman says he broke the scythe in half with his knee. And then with one arm lifted Scarecrow up by the noose, slowly choking him. "Let me show you what true fear and terror looks like." As Batman clipped off a small syringe from his belt and jabbed it into Scarecrow's arm and injected the yellow contents. As Jonathan Crane squirmed and pulled off his mask. As Jonathan Crane squirmed about and pulled off his mask. When Gotham PD arrived, they heard a loud shriek from the field of the stadium and quickly swarmed it. When the stadium lights were turned on, there, in the middle of the field, standing over, a pale and extremely frightened Scarecrow, who had curled up into the fetal position, was Batman. Chapter 13. As EMTs sedated Scarecrow, Gordon approached Batman. "Jesus, what the hell did you do to him?" "I gave him a taste of his own medicine," Batman said, shaking another syringe of yellow liquid. "No wonder he was It's like, Christ, no wonder he was scared of you," Gordon said. "How strong a dose was it?" "Enough to drive 6 men insane with terror," Batman said. "Well, at least now we got them all," Gordon said with relief. Suddenly, Gordon realized his breath was steaming and the air got chilly all of a sudden. He started to shiver and said, "That's weird. It's July. It shouldn't be cold." Batman's eyes immediately narrowed as snow began to fall heavily. "Jim, you need to get everyone out of here. Now!" Batman said in a demanding tone, quickly scanning the arena through the thick snow. Gordon didn't wait or question Batman. "All right, people, move it out!" Gordon yelled, rushing the EMTs and other officers out of the stadium. Batman waited for Mr. Freeze to make his move. Just then a high-pitched sound came from behind him. Batman nearly dodged a burst of concentrated cold air that instantly froze Batman's legs as he quickly grabbed a small thermal nuclear gel cap and threw it at the ice block on his legs. The capsule broke and melted the ice enough for Batman to shatter it with a batarang. "You are resilient as always, Batman," Mr. Freeze's monotone voice bellowed as he grabbed Batman and lifted him above his head and threw him headlong into the large snow pile that covered the football field. "But not resilient enough." Mr. Freeze's left arm of his robot body disassembled and reassembled into a freeze cannon the size of a mini RPG. "First, I will get rid of you, Batman. Then I will turn Gotham into a barren, cold wasteland. And finally, I will show my former beloved what true betrayal and heartbreak is like when I destroy what she loves most without remorse." Freeze said coldly with a tinge of bitterness. "She rejected me, even after all I did for her. The unspeakable crimes, the extreme lengths to save her life, including kidnapping Commissioner Gordon's daughter Barbara for that blood transfusion, and finally going even as far to Ra's al Ghul and putting her in the Lazarus pits that turned her into the creature she has now become. It was done all for her," Freeze said with a straight face as he aimed his cannon at Batman. "Goodbye, Batman," and fired the freezing snow pile. Mini coolant tanks popped out of Freeze's cannon, preventing the cannon from overloading and backfiring. Chapter 14. Just then, an explosive batarang hit and blew off 2 coolant tanks on the freeze cannon. Victor Freeze growled in anger. "You won't escape me, Batman. I will find you, and when I do, you will suffer," Freeze said, raising his voice as he swept the giant football field with his freeze cannon. Batman did his best to dodge the icy beam, but it was hard to maneuver in the knee-deep snow covering the field of the stadium. Where's this snow coming from? Batman thought, and scanned the stadium for anything that might stand out when he spotted an almost undetectable black blimp posing as a cloud, raining down snow on the stadium. "I see you noticed my blimp, Batman," Freeze said. "No matter. Even if you destroy it, I have planted a series of cryobombs on board, with enough power to freeze at least a quarter of Gotham," Freeze said, his eyes narrowing through his red safety goggles. Freeze went to shoot at Batman, who dived into the thick snow. "You think that will save you?" Freeze said, walking through the snow with little trouble. "My new robotic body is vastly improved over my old one. My left arm can now morph into a freezing cannon. The armor plating is thicker, as is my glass helmet," Freeze said, trying to instill hopelessness in Batman. Batman then made his move when Freeze was close enough to strike at. He pelted Freeze with 2 handfuls of snow in one hand, of snow, one in his face and one on his cannon, to which Freeze was taken a little aback by this method of attack. Did Batman really just try to blind him with snow? That momentary thought cost him, as a mini flashbang hidden in the snow thrown at him went off, as well as some kind of electronic device, because he heard beeping. The next thing Freeze knew, against his will, he fired at his blimp, and as it fell heading outward towards the riverbank, as the blimp exploded into a massive frozen tsunami, Batman struck Freeze, but his blow just bounced off of Freeze's tightly enforced helmet. Freeze then grabbed Batman and lifted the Dark Knight with one arm and tossed him as if he was merely nothing across part of the stadium's field that wasn't covered by snow. Batman hit a button in his gauntlet. The device on Freeze's cannon beeped to life, but Freeze smashed the device. But what Freeze found out was that in destroying the device, it caused his robotic body to malfunction, as it sparked and short-circuited. Freeze ejected the now useless body, walking with metal spider legs under his disembodied head. "You might have destroyed my body, Batman, but I can still do you harm," Freeze said, his eyes slightly widened as 2 mini rocket launchers popped out of either side of Freeze's neck. "Prepare to die," Freeze said as he shot a rocket the size of a fountain pen from each launcher. Batman sidestepped the rockets as the rockets stopped and clamored across the line towards him, as Freeze let out a roar of shock and anger, as the rockets were not only duds, but at the same time Batman had hurled 2 batarangs, each connecting with the metallic spider legs and causing him to drop and roll in a small circle. Chapter 15. Batman grabbed Freeze and lifted him up so that they were eye level. "What is Ra's al Ghul and Sensu planning?" Freeze stared at Batman with the same creepy, blank, emotionless face he always had. "I only agreed to help if they would help me track down Nora," Freeze said, his voice unwavering. "They are located—" Ah! Freeze was cut off by an electrical shock from his robot body, and then the body rose as if it was the walking undead. A hologram projected out of the head of Freeze's robot body, and a massive pre-recorded message played. Ra's al Ghul was standing up straight, and Sensu was as well, with his hands behind his back. "Hello, detective. If you are hearing this message, which I have no doubt you are, Then you figured out the game Sensu and I have been playing all along. Call it a gentlemanly wager of sorts, Raish said with an arrogant smile. Then Sensu interjected. If you wish to confront us both, then you know where we are, Batman. But do hurry, if you can escape this. And suddenly the robot body wobbled and twitched as sparks shot out from every part of its body as Batman swooped up Freeze and ran as fast as he could as the robot body, Freeze once preoccupied, exploded. Batman had barely escaped the explosion. He notified Gordon of what happened, then went to the Batcave and prepped the Batwing for takeoff. You sure about this, Gordon? Gordon asked on a mini UAV monitor. Positive, was the only reply the Commissioner got before the Dark Knight turned off the mini monitor. Batman took off for his final fight rounds with Al Ghul and Sensu. Batman had infiltrated the Demon Head's palace many times, but this time he not only had to deal with Ra's al Ghul's guards, but Sensu's soldiers as well. He followed his method of attack as he planned it hours earlier. He glided from a steep cliff opposite the palace, brought his knees up, and nailed the first sentry in the chest, bouncing off and rolled, slicing the gun barrel while delivering a left hook to another sentry, securing a quiet entrance into the palace.